everyone. My name is Emily, and I'm our Director of Programs for 11th grade here at Attollo Prep. And I also host our Professional Development Series. And today we have Dan Betancourt, who is the President and CEO of Finanta. So thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just to kind of kick us off, where are you from, and what were some of your hobbies growing up?
Where I'm from, I was born in New York City to Puerto Rican parents and moved to Lancaster in grade school. But I grew up in a part of Brooklyn where I had never heard English, believe it or not. I thought I was essentially in a Latin American country because, you know, my church, my grandparents, everyone in the neighborhood spoke Spanish. So it wasn't until I came to Lancaster, to Fulton Elementary School up the street from here, that I realized I better learn English. And then I realized, quite frankly, I don't remember learning English because it happened so fast. When you're, you know, kindergarten, first grade, you just absorb. But I do remember the shock of not knowing what the teacher, well, I didn't know what the teacher was saying. So it was a pretty interesting experience coming to Lancaster. It's quite the shock, but also, as you know, we adapt when we're young.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, reminds me of my parents and their immigrant experience and how hard it was for them. And then just like what's happening in America today. So all that kind of influences me and really reminds me of who I am and the why kind of thing. Why the work that I do in community development is so personal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then would you say that you were involved in your community growing up as well? Like, were there any hobbies that you had or organizations you were a part of in your upbringing that also may have led you to where you are now?
My father was, the reason why we moved to Lancaster, my father was a treasurer of a church in Brooklyn, and the pastor was appointed to a church here in Lancaster, so we were the first 10 families that came along with that pastor, and so a lot of my time growing up was in church. But I played a lot of basketball, you know, in the neighborhood.
Nice.
Walked around across this city. I thought it was a big city. Now I realized, you know, 2 miles by 2 miles. But I didn't realize it was a hobby. But we did a lot of walking. I know every alleyway in Lancaster.
Nice.
Even today when I drive, I can cut through alleyways because, you know, they're there.
Yeah.
But it's quite the remarkable city here in Lancaster.
That's awesome. I'll definitely have to keep my eyes open for those shortcuts now.
Yes.
So you've spent your career in community economic development and finance. What first sparked your interest in this field, especially the finance component? I'm curious.
I kind of fell into it. It all started with having to pick a major. I went to Millersville, and I wanted to do an internship right out of high school, and I was accepted as a business major. I didn't know what I was going to major in. And the requirement for this insurance company up the street that's no longer around, but it was where the art school here is at PCAD.
Yes.
There was an insurance company there. And they had an internship available for the summer because I wanted to make money. You know, I came from a pretty large family, and so I knew I'd have to sort of pay for some of my college.
Absolutely.
And the requirement was to be a business major. So guess what I declared?
Business major.
Business major. And so that's how I kind of fell into understanding business. How I fell into, you know, finance and things like that was a little bit, I always say there's like people that come across your path, I call them angels, that just change your life forever. And then, so I did meet a woman, the head of HR at that insurance company, who just proceeded to just mentor me for those 4 years that I came back. They had no program, they didn't have a training program, but why she developed that for me, I have no idea. But then ultimately I got into finance because I had always had this interest in being involved with the community, lots of nonprofits. So here I am, 19, 20 years old, and getting appointed to the SACA, the Spanish Center's board. And I remember the conversation with some of the board members saying, yeah, when your resume came up, they said you were too young. And no, we told them that's exactly what we need to do. Because young people need to learn these skills. And so remember, I've come from an immigrant family, and there's no one 30 or 40 on boards in Lancaster. I mean, today we have mayors, reps, we have council members. But when I'm in college, all of our parents worked in factories or immigrant workers. So my generation felt this sense of urgency to get involved immediately. So I did get on that board. And then ultimately, I met some people, business leaders. And this gentleman named Eric Brown said, you know, when you graduate next year, I want to introduce you to the head of HR at Fulton Bank. They have this management training program. It's not really known. This is the thing about networks. A lot of opportunities you'll never know about. And Eric did introduce me to the head of HR. I get into this program. This sets my trajectory off of, really advancing fast in a banking career because I got the right training early on, the right set of mentors. But again, why did Dorothy Chrisman, why did Eric Brown, why did they do that? I don't know the why, because we all, this work tends to be personal for people that care about community. So my answer is there was something in them that wanted to help our community. And ultimately, I was a beneficiary of that. And that sort of drives who I am today, why I said this work is so personal.
Your story is really reminding me of something that we share with our students when we first. So part of our program, we work with juniors and seniors in high school, and when we invite the juniors to be a part of our program, we have an orientation. And at this orientation, our CEO is infamous for using the phrase, opportunity is nowhere, but it's also spelled the same as saying opportunity is now here. And so I'm thinking about these angels in your lives, or these angels in your life. How do you identify, and how do you continue to identify that these people are giving you the opportunity now? Because I feel like it can be very easy to miss that and not realize, like, oh wait, I should actually be taking advantage of the thing that this person is offering to me.
I definitely need it. I think differently today. I need it less now. I try to be the person that makes sure that the unsung folks are getting the opportunity.
You've become the angel.
Maybe. Maybe I realize that my job as the president is not about working directly with, in our case, a consumer, a business owner, but being the facilitator of that to happen through our staff. So as I grew up in an organization, I realized, because a lot of people, they said, oh, I want to work directly with grassroots. You want to work with students, you want to work with business owners. But I realized that my role could be magnified by 10, 100 or 1,000 if I can facilitate a bigger organization to help the community.
Okay.
So almost like an army ready to help the community.
Yeah. Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So you've led Finanta, formerly known as Community First Fund, since 1999, which is a remarkable
Makes
tenure.
me an old head, right?
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but definitely one way to describe it. Could you walk us through your early journey into this work and what really sustained you through these decades? And
so first, I do have a connection to this work, Attollo, and I always made a quick connection. So there was, the original programs were called like upper bound programs.
Yes, very
And that's how I connected with Jordan right away, because but for the upper bound program, that's what it was called. It was a federal program when I was in junior high, and they were tutoring kids to learn algebra and things like that in summers at Saka, of all places. And I met a woman, another angel, Maureen Powers. Didn't know who she was, but she was my tutor. Turns out later in life, she was the director of the YW. You may not know Maureen Powers.
Okay.
And so I understood right away the value of taking kids that just need that spark, have the intelligence, just need, because I'm honestly, I believe, because I went to the school district of Lancaster, that a lot of times the expectations are not real high for us, Latinos, people of color, etc. And so when you can take a young person and open the possibilities, then we understand what can happen. So along the way was your question. So I was set up pretty nicely by the fabric of this community. Mind you, many of us were the first, too many firsts for us, right? First kid to do this, first kid to go to college, first kid to grad. I was the first Latino to be promoted as an officer at Fulton Bank. It just is too much of that. Though I am encouraged today to see the early work that I talked about did set people up to be in leadership in Lancaster. Now we have a Latino mayor. I think that stuff doesn't happen by accident. This kind of organization, the kind of early work that we were doing, I think just makes it easier for the folks listening, the generation for today. And it's okay that you don't know that was going on. What matters is that you help the next generation and help the people in your community and your colleagues. And and the people that you work with every day.
So it
Because
seems-
I know it's personal for you.
yeah.
I know that you have your why. And I know that there's a tremendous community here, that this table has been set by Jordan and Leo over there. And I'm just tremendously impressed with the work of this organization.
Thank you. Thank you. It seems like there's a lot of overlap with wanting to ensure that there don't have to be as many firsts, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like in the sense that while it sounds frustrating at times when you go back and reflect on the fact that you were the first person to do the X, Y, and Z, you are now, many years out, being able to reflect on, like, this is why we have these other people in positions of leadership. Speaking of leadership, I'm curious, how have you adapted your leadership style over time, especially as Finanta has grown and our economic landscape has shifted?
You know, your business skills just adapt in general. Personally, adapting, I never forget the why. I consciously say to myself, whether it's true or not, I don't want to change because I'm in another position or I'm growing in my career. I never wanted, in high school I was known as Danny. Anyone that calls the office, Finanta, and they ask for Danny, my staff knows, oh, they know our president, you know, high school or before. And so I never stopped being Danny. Now when my mother says Danielle, I know I'm in trouble. But never forget your why.
Okay.
One of the things that I talk to some of the pastors here, particularly whether it's the African experience or the Latino experience, I said, a lot of the young people don't work in the community anymore. They're not involved in nonprofits. They're just not doing that community development organizing. And on the one hand, it's great, right? We you know, my daughter's in her 30s. She graduated from McCaskey, went to a good liberal arts school nearby. And her generation, many of them don't get involved. And we have to encourage them to do that. And now, you know, she's involved on the local board, and she just told me she's going to be the chairwoman, which I'm really excited about. But and her husband, who grew up, you know, went to church here and things like that, you know, for whatever reason, we've lost that connection. And I see a lot of organizations they're just too old. Like the average age of board members is pretty old, and we all look around like, where's the next generation? So, you know, that's what we should be doing. That's what we should be encouraging.
Absolutely. Thinking about the two different audiences that come to mind when trying to encourage involvement in our community, specifically in board service, what would you say to the young professional right now who's questioning whether or not they should take that leap?
Yeah.
And then flipping that, what would you say to the current chair of a board who is hesitant to invite that young professional?
Well, I mean, that's like the story of my life, right? Push the envelope, use your network, don't take no. It's sort of BS for anyone to say you're too young. I just don't believe in that. So, but the average age, if you look around, of elected officials in Lancaster, whether it's council, the mayor in this case, or anywhere, it's pretty young. Like, I think your generation is not waiting till you're a certain age, and I think you guys don't know your barriers. Let's take that to the public sector, and let's remove those barriers. Don't limit yourself. The way I call it being an overachiever. I didn't know my coming out of college or in college, should I have thought, no, most people there are 50, 60 years old. I didn't see it as a barrier. I didn't see that it was a limitation. I actually didn't know that I shouldn't be doing that. So I think, you know, you had asked me earlier, like, what are your things that you have learned in your career, sustained you? The one word I will say to you is initiative. It's not something that's in a job description. It's something that you probably won't even be coached. It's something going to be watched on. So if you're the kind of person that says, it's not in my job description,
I'm not going to do it.
not good. Not good. Yes, focus most of your work on what you're supposed to be doing. Knock it out of the park. But, you know, like, you add value to a company, to a community, when you're trying to, so yes, specialize. You're trying to think more across the board. I tell my senior executives, I want you to think like a CEO. Great that you're the best HR person. You're the best chief credit officer. You're the best chief sales officer, whatever, best fundraiser. Knock it out of the park. Because you won't keep your job if you're not good at that. But I need you to look across the silos. Do not, there's a paradox. The more you see that, the less I have to tell you you're not looking at that. That's the paradox, right? And so when I was a young officer at the bank, the reason why I quickly got promoted was I showed a lot of initiative. And one of the mentors, like Eric Brown I told you about, he said, you know, if you sit in a chair and you don't tell your boss that you want to move up, you're going to sit in the chair. And there's no supervisor that has your best interest that minds you speaking up and showing initiative. They actually expect you to do that. They may not tell you. So when we have young people in my company, oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z, that's great. That's not what I'm talking about. Show the initiative. Think about the next job. You know, you've heard the term dress for the next job. That's cute. No, behave like you want to be in the next job. And initiative is a big part of that. And you don't have to worry about getting paid and getting recognized. That will naturally come, and you'll be so invaluable. They're going to want to keep you because you are invaluable at that point. So just keep that in mind. Don't. Maybe, you know, you're hearing this from an overachiever, right? So just take it with a grain of salt. Make it work for what's authentic to you, but just hear the words of an overachiever that just don't sit back, speak up, and also always look across the silos. There's many leadership books that talk about this, but I live by that. And then the other thing I live by is talent. Hire the best people for the money that you can. Hire people that are as good as or smarter than you. If you look at my company, you can't look under the hood, but if you were to look, you will quickly find out that I'm usually not the smartest in the room. But I have pretty good damn emotional intelligence because I'm paying attention, looking across. My skills are something else, some soft skills. But for specialists, I want the smartest person in the room. And in the end, some people are threatened by that, but in the end, who does that make look good? All of us.
Yeah.
I've been the CEO for 26 years. That didn't happen by accident. Two things why I'm the CEO for 26 years. One is I know how to work with boards, board engagement, you know, really engaging people into the work and being transparent and all that. And secondly, hiring the talent. And then the third was the overachiever part, right?
Yeah.
So those are sort of the secrets that are not apparent from the outside. You just see the work, the success, but on the inside, I mean, I had one employee I said, what do you think about this pace? She had been on the job 2 years. She's in our fundraising department. I said, what do you think? Oh, it's a high pace. And I said to her, silly me to ask this question. Well, what makes that pace in this company? And she looked at me deadpan. You. Yes, we set the pace. We set the environment for people to achieve. And then we should all look across and hire the talent and all the things that we talked about.
I have so many thoughts.
Don't get me started. I did drink my coffee.
I know, yeah.
Someone passed me a 3-shot coffee. I did pass that along, but you understand that I'm talking about the why.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I heard you mention this concept of always thinking about how can you take initiative to continue adding value to the company so that you remain the most sought out person. Are there any books or podcasts or practices that have influenced the way that you currently lead today?
Yeah. And by the way, what I said was make yourself invaluable. I did not say this. Keep knowledge that no one else can have and you're invaluable, because that's not cool.
No, yeah.
Cross-pollinate. Be humble. I tell the staff, you know, I'm a son of a pastor, but I don't use religious words. But I do say to the staff this: our community and our clients are the salt of the earth. Never forget why you're doing your work. Never. Put them at the front. I see people in our credit union and our community finance organization, Finanta, that came to the United States and their first language is Mayan language, not even Spanish. And to see them come into our Finanta credit union and walking out with a checking account, they had never had a checking account. And then coming to the staff, knocking on our branch over here on Vine and Duke, and asking the staff to come out, and it was nothing more to say, I bought this car because of you. So don't forget why you're in the business. So, it's just the work has to be personal, and when it's personal, you will achieve great things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would not be doing our scholars justice if I did not ask for some clarity around like the concept of a credit union, especially for our young high school students. So for scholars who might not be familiar, what exactly is a community development financial institution? Mm-hmm. And then how does Finanta's work like with small businesses and communities? Like how do y'all work with them, especially when they're often overlooked?
So Finanta, and you're right, we were formerly Community First Fund for 35 years, and about a year ago we changed our name, and we changed our name because Community First Fund was too long, because we later, a few years ago, we launched a credit union. A credit union is nothing but it's everything, but it's a nonprofit bank. And so it's financial literacy. We are educating the community in terms of remember the immigrant I shared with you that maybe didn't ever understand the financial system? Mm-hmm. The one thing that I could say to you, one of the most important concepts to understand in banking is compound interest. And what that means is, you can build wealth over time just because interest just compounds, right? And so a lot of times we think as people that we're going to build wealth on real estate. I'm going to buy a home and that's going to sustain me. That's not really wealth. Matter of fact, you can fall into poverty pretty quickly if you lose a job, right? A house doesn't pay you cash flow, but if you put money away in a savings account and it compounds, or in mutual funds like in the stock market or 403b, what do you think is going to happen over time? That money's going to multiply. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden now, when you retire, you're going to have money to sustain you. So housing, I think that's the sort of the myth in America, and that's what we try to help our community to understand. Yes, we're going to help you buy a home, and we will. Yes, you can borrow money from your home to put your kids through college, and you can. But what if we open up your mind? Because the wealth in America, the difference between black and brown wealth and white wealth, is not homes. That's the myth. You can own a home, and you're still vulnerable of going back into poverty. It's compound interest. If you compare white families and black families over time, it's a 10 times difference. It's putting money into the stock market, pensions, 403b. And those are the things that our communities don't know. We talk about having good credit, and we want to teach that in high school, but guys, that's just foundational. And so my point about the financial institution that we started is we want to advance wealth and income mobility over time. And by the way, how do you sort of the guts of what we do, lending, we do provide lending both for small business and for families, but a lot of times people don't look good on paper, but they have good character, they have a lot of skills, and so we know how to lend the old-fashioned way, which is understand the person's business, understand their skill, and the only question we're ever trying to ask is, will you pay us back? If we believe you're going to pay us back, and I will tell you something about immigrants and people of color and people that come from disadvantaged communities, they're extremely loyal. Just look at any brand holder, they know that people are very loyal. So we get that loyalty by two interventions, right? And I'm talking about the way that we as nonprofits talk. We talk about our theory of change and the why. So a simple way of saying the why, we understand our why, and the two value adds that we have is education and trust. The only reason why someone will come to us and not a commercial bank is because they don't quite fit in that bank, and they know that they can trust us, and with that trust comes loyalty. And then we teach them everything else that we talked about. So it's not fancy. It's everyone thinks I'm in the finance business. I am not in the finance business. The finance is just a byproduct of the trust and the education we talk about. Then you give a loan and you get that back, but you gotta build these other foundational things.
There's a lot more networking and community building that goes into this type of work than I think I realized before our conversation. Because you're right, you think credit union, finance numbers, look on paper.
These are generic set of products that people can get on the app, whatever, Ally Bank, you name it, a fintech, online bank. You can get all that. But people don't trust because they've never been given a chance or coached, if you will, like co-creating something together. So we look at our communities that we're co-creating this wealth that we're talking about for our community.
Absolutely. I have one more question before I open it up to our audience. I feel like you've touched on a couple of these, but I'm curious, was there a time where you faced doubt, setback, or major pivot that created this defining moment for you as a leader? Maybe it's a moment in your career that tested you, and if so, what did you learn from it?
That's easy, because all of us were tested in March of 2020, right?
Yeah.
It marked your life. I bet there's everything before and after. And for me, as a business leader, it's everything before and after. And I think my memory was really mapped. I mean, anything before March 2020, it felt like it was, many years before that. And so we were tested. And some of you may have been, whatever stage of life you were in, wherever you were at, it impacted you. If you were in college, if you were in high school, it just marked you. But for us, we could have, as a financial organization, nonprofit financial institution, could have said, good luck, business owners. We're going to, this is a technical, we're just going to increase our loan loss reserve and call it a day. That's what a lot of organizations like mine did across the country. We did something different. We said, the state of Pennsylvania got $4 billion from the federal, $4 billion with a B, from the federal government, and they don't know how to serve our community. They put out a program, and they $60 million, and said, if you're a business owner and you had a financial loss, apply for this grant, essentially, in the state here in Pennsylvania. And guess what happened? You can guess. Every business owner, by the way, the money was gone in 3 days. Every business owner that had a controller, had an accountant, they responded quickly, put the business plan, put the financials, and the money went out. But guess who didn't get the money? Small mom and pop businesses. So you can have de facto discriminatory practice. In other words, it wasn't intended to that, but it was that. So I knew that happened, and I knew the legislature felt like there was egg on their face because the communities from here to Philadelphia to Pittsburgh were really upset. So we're a community lending organization. We're a pretty large community lending organization. And I made 18 phone calls to 18 CEOs across the state and said, hey, let's come together and let's ask for a chunk of money and create our own grant program to get the small mom and pop businesses. One of them was to Jamie and his predecessor over at Assets and then across. And they said, how much can you handle? I asked them, how much can you? And it all came up to like 50 million. And then I realized, which is a drop in the bucket, because what I didn't know then, the need was about $1 billion. I only know that because we did create a program, we found out, but I was asking the wrong question. I was asking the question of how much capacity we have, not what was the need in the community. And once I got that, I proceeded to talk to a company out of California, like a financial, like an Ally Bank, a fintech, what they call fintech company, that could do our entire back office. In other words, put a portal to take the apps and put a call center. So then we put an application together to the state and asked them for $500 million out of that $4 billion. And they gave us $225 million. So I sat there one day, right over here, 1 block from our location, and $225 million was wired into our account. I almost fell off my chair. And the other CEOs, when I told them we're going to apply for $500 million, they almost fell off their chair. Like, we're on video, and I could almost see the white going from away from their face. In the end, they had to have what in me? Trust. Trust that we were asking the right question after a while. We were getting the backup, the fintech company. We got the state to pay for the operational support, and then we did our job. What's our 2 interventions? You remember? Education and trust. So when we got our link out to the business owners, black and brown, mom and pop, guess what they did? Because we thought during COVID, our clients are not sophisticated enough to apply online and, the whole digital divide, all that was what? BS. Because when you have a business owner that's hurting, guess what they figure out? Right here. The most powerful computer ever, right here. And we sent them the app. They didn't know how to scan documents. We taught them how to scan. There's a feature in here, not you don't take a picture of every page. There's a feature that scans everything, right? You take all the pictures and then just puts them together. So we were doing things like that. All these 18 organizations. And remember, it took courage because I could have just called it a day. And I knew because this stuff is personal that we had to save our we had to save our community. There was no one coming for us. Because the coming for us was, you didn't fit the box.
Yeah.
You didn't have that controller. You couldn't respond in minutes and hours. And then we did something pretty interesting. We did not put this date like, you gotta apply within 3 days and then we'll evaluate you. That's called first come, first serve. That doesn't work. We said you got 2 months and at the end we're gonna evaluate everyone equally. And then we ranked it by what? Losses. People with low net worth, people in low-income census tracts. In other words, the algorithm worked to help our community. It wasn't discriminatory. It was playing to the strengths or weaknesses, if you will, and then getting the money where it needed to get to. And that's the kind of things I think we as policymakers can use our knowledge and understand what the fact of discrimination is about. Because it doesn't look like discrimination. And once we understand it, then we can help our community.
Education and trust.
Hello.
Opening up to anyone in the audience. Sam.
Yeah, I could start. I also grew up in the church. I'm a very religious person. I was just wondering how your religion has impacted your career or your line of work in general.
Yeah. So one is like, I did grow up in a very conservative, what I now know it's a Christian fundamentalist church, Pentecostal church, and felt like I had a lot of scars coming out of that. And so I was like, as a teenager, I rebelled. But I did lean into the spiritual part of growing up in church and a lot of things my dad taught me. And like what I was saying earlier about, if you're spiritual, then you know why you're doing the work. And if you're spiritual, you know who the people you're trying to serve. And that thing I told you, that you'll never change on the inside if you understand that. So I am not religious, but I am come to find out I'm much more spiritual than I gave myself credit for. And I lean into that. I do change the language at work. But we don't, I use the word reflection, I might not use the word discernment, but it's the same stuff. We have to reflect on our work and then think across silos, all the things that we talked about to serve our communities. Innovation is an interesting thing because a lot of people talk about that word innovation, and what I realize, innovation for me is learning about an idea somewhere else, usually some other organization that's doing good work, and then bringing it home and then localizing it. And we can do great innovative work, the work that Attollo is doing. Because I told you, I was aware of the Upper Bound program, and you guys just took it to another level, right? That's understanding the people that you're trying to help and all those innovative things. It wasn't that it had never been done, it was that we did a better job when we brought it home, and I think that's our work. Yeah.
Seb, I see you had a question.
Yeah, but first, thank you for being here. I was just wondering, you talked a lot about like being the first, whether it's in your family or community. A lot of our students are the first ones probably to go to college, or they might be like the first ones to try to get a position by their race or whatever. So I was just wondering, was there ever a moment where you were like very scared to be the first, and then what did you do or what tips did you have to push through it?
I think I was more scared going from high school to college because I actually thought I was going to flunk out because there was no model. But the journey for me, college, university was a journey of enlightenment. I mean, you guys know that, particularly if you come from a low-income background or you have self-esteem issues and things like that. But by the time I finished college, I think I had the confidence that I needed, the early confidence. And so I didn't really lack in confidence. And what I was saying earlier, like when I was going after these firsts, at that point I didn't know I had limitations. Like what told Jamie Arroyo to run for mayor? There had never been a Latino mayor, let alone a young Latino mayor. You know, at some point you have to become, what, you're either fearless or you're not. But I think I was fearless and didn't realize I shouldn't have been. but it's good. I think when you're an overachiever, that's how we break these barriers. Yeah. Yeah. But I think I had more fear coming out of high school than going into the business world.
So we have time for one more. Thank you.
So you talked about co-creating wealth, and I know myself and excuse me, a lot of people my age, like we want to go to college and then move out right away. And you also talked about younger people not really participating in the community so much. What is your advice to kind of influence and encourage the people around all of us to kind of maybe not move out and help your family build that wealth, or maybe join a nonprofit or join a place like Finanta and really give back to their community? Because I'm experiencing, when I try to talk to my friends, they don't really understand the importance of it.
There's, back in the 1800s, there was a gentleman from France that visited the U.S. I don't know if you ever heard of him, de Tocqueville, French gentleman. If you haven't heard of him, you can read any of de Tocqueville's stuff, and it sounds like he came to the U.S. right now. It says things like the American culture is a very volunteering culture, is a very generous philanthropy culture. A lot of people in philanthropy quote him. It's a pretty remarkable writer. He's one of those prophetic writers that sounds like that it was written today. In fact, the United Way has a society called the Tocqueville Society, and if you donate, it was $2,500 a year, and now it's $5,000. You were part of that society. So we are a very, I think it comes from our pioneering. We were once you left Europe and Latin America and Africa, you really couldn't go back. I mean, we know that people left for many different reasons. I'm not even going to go there. Some were forced and otherwise, but it was a pretty independent, pioneering country that had to be, self-sustaining. And so what became part of our culture is to do that. I think you get to a point where people think they're middle class and they get comfortable and maybe they don't have to do that. But if you find yourself not on one or two boards, you're probably not doing enough. And that's not just a board. It could be, handing out political literature. It's working at the polls. It's being a committee person. It's being on a nonprofit board. It's many different ways. If you're not involved in, one major thing and then a couple other minor things, you're probably not doing enough. And I don't know it matters where you live as much. You don't have to live in a particular place, but you can certainly lean into a particular place.
Awesome.
And then, lo and behold, and again, don't do it for this reason, every angel that I met was because I stepped out there. They didn't come to me. I stepped out there. They could see. I always call it, you're being interviewed and you don't even know it. Most of the opportunities that I got in my life was because people watch your work, you model the work, and then trust and things like that. So the state piece that I told you, they already knew my work from before. They were already watching me. So when I went up there, I had the right message, right time, right? Because if I would have asked for that kind of money before that, they didn't have the money. If I would have went up there without, the trust that I had built with them and all that, no. So it was just, they screwed up. So the timing was right. They had the money, and then I had the right message. And I didn't know that. I thought it was going to be dead on arrival. And I said, no, you're the solution we didn't know that we needed. We want you to run this, and then ask for more. And go get the resources you need. That was pretty remarkable. That had never happened to me at that level. That was probably the culmination of lots of things that I've shared with you. So if everything lines up, you can do extraordinary things. You can do transformational things. What I didn't tell you is because we did that with the state, we took care of the state and the elected officials looked good. When we started our credit union, and I go back to the same appropriations chairs, and I tell them, hey, I want you to give me money so I can open up branches all across the state. Guess what they did? It wasn't a no, it was a yes. And so you do it for the right reasons, don't know your limitations, build trust, and extraordinary things can happen for your community. And never forget what I said to you. Why do we do this work? And who are we serving? We're serving people that are humble. And so therefore, our staff has to be humble, and we have to be humble. And humble doesn't mean you have to be shy. Humble doesn't have to mean you're not outgoing, because clearly I am. It just means never forget who you're serving. That's what I mean by humility.
Well, thank you so much, Dan, for sharing your story on how you built up courage through really just understanding your why and focusing on education and trust within the community to really take initiative. I know that I'm leaving with a lot of inspiration to do the same in my community, and I hope you all are as well. So thank you.
And thank you to the team here at Attollo for giving us the opportunity and giving me the opportunity to share some of our thoughts here in Lancaster City.
Absolutely. Yay!